Hello and welcome back to another out-of-spec detailing video here from Clear Detailing in Northern Colorado. Next to me here we have the newly refreshed 2025 Kia EV6 GT line. Lots of little updates here. Importantly, this is now built in the United States for the US market, and in today's video we're going to be doing a full build quality analysis with this thing, where we walk around the exterior of the vehicle, get a feel for quite literally how this thing is screwed together. We'll jump inside, talk about the fit and finish and materials, and give you an overall review on the build quality. Welcome back, and let's jump into it. Well, as you guys may know, I have been the owner of a 2024 Kia EV6 for the past year, and I've honestly really come to like a lot of the things with the EV6. There's some good, some bad, some things that are in the middle, so I was very curious to check out this 2025 variant. Now, before we jump into the video, let's quickly talk about pricing and specs of this particular car. First off, throughout this evaluation, understand this is a Kia press vehicle, so we're expecting it to be a little bit tighter tolerances, but I'm also very curious to see how this compares to my EV6, because this is now built in West Point, Georgia, where mine was actually built in Korea. So this price as tested starts about $61,000, which is quite a lot of money, especially when you start comparing it to other vehicles. These cars are really meant to be leased, not necessarily purchased, but still quite a bit of car considering battery tech in here. We've got some new improvements, including the battery, a little larger 84 kilowatt hour battery pack in this, a little bit more range. This trim with the all-wheel drive configuration, 270 miles of EPA rated range, up from 252 last year. We also have the same power figure in all-wheel drive trim here, 320 horsepower, 446 foot-pounds of torque, and honestly, more than you need for a daily driver. So that's what we got for pricing and specs. Let's jump into exterior fit and finish. Let's start off here walking around the EV6. I'll touch on some points that are of course new. As you can see, the fully refreshed front end here, which I think looks really nice, some new wheels, all the stuff that has changed. Again, throughout this video, I'll make some considerations back and forth between my EV6 and this newly refreshed one, and really get a feel for the fit and finish. This is actually finished in a brand new color for the EV6. This is wolf gray, and I think it looks very, very nice. So up here, one of the most important things for me is the headlight changes, not just aesthetically, but actually how they function. These headlights are actually usable headlights now. In the previous generation, they were absolutely, truly terrible. We also, of course, have a new lighting signature here. As you can see, it kind of gives this lightning bolt design, goes all the way through as kind of this unique bar. I think the front end of this looks really, really nice. So throughout what we're going to do here, we're going to start looking at panel gaps and fit and finish. We're also going to use this tool, which the camera always has a hard time focusing, but is actually working today. And all these little numbers on here are going to give us the ability to stick it in panel gaps and give you a measurement reading. Now, on average, when I'm looking at hoods, doors, and opening and closing areas, I want to see around 3 to 4 millimeters of tolerances. What I'm looking for here is consistency throughout, so I want to make sure side to side it's all looking good and things like that. Now, first off, I do have to say my EV6 built in Korea, I was actually really, really impressed with the fit and finish. Far outweighs something like my Tesla Model 3 over here, and honestly a lot of vehicles in terms of how it was screwed together. So let's see how the West Point, Georgia facility is actually looking. So we'll start up here on the hood. First thing I'm noticing here, you can see not lining up ever so perfect there. We'll see if it's the same on the other side. But if I give you a measurement here, that's right at 3 millimeters. Down here, a little bit tighter. Honestly though, to my eyes, that looks absolutely perfect. We also have this cladding here, which is already showcasing some weird issues. So you can see how tight it is here. Then notice this area, how it's sticking out. That doesn't even, whoa, something is not right there. That's crazy. So to me, what it looks like is there's probably some adhesive back here. Maybe. I don't know. It feels like it's missing a clip. Okay, let's come to the other side and see if the same thing's going on. No. So that's pretty interesting. So this, yeah, fits really nice. You can see how tight all of that is there, but you can see this is actually pretty nice throughout. So let's take a measurement here. I'm going to tell you this looks ever so slightly bigger. Nope, totally wrong. That's why we have this tool. 4 millimeters down there. Okay, So not seeing the Korean precision that I was actually seeing on my car. Pretty interesting stuff there. Let's take a measurement here. May need to come this way. That is a 6mm gap there. 6mm gap there. Quite large, honestly, if I do say so myself. Wow, okay. We got a lot of stuff going on here, folks. This has, yeah, I'm really surprised by this because Kia is not necessarily known to build the best quality cars, but every time I get a Kia in the shop here, whether it's a press car, my own personal cars, beyond the EV6, EV9, I'm actually really impressed with the fit and finish. And this so far is not looking so good for the new West Point, Georgia facility. Let's continue on though. Molding is looking very nice here. Interesting how the park distance sensors are in there. Everything up here is looking pretty good though. Can see how nicely the headlights fit. All the ridges fit really, really nice here. How about on the driver's side? Yeah, but it's actually pretty tight. Side to side, I don't know. That looks pretty darn close to me. I would say that's probably totally passable there. Now, I will say throughout this video, a lot of you get really annoyed with how nitpicky I am. That's kind of the whole point of doing a build quality review. So if this kind of stuff bothers you, just go watch another video of me cleaning a car or something like that. This is the time where a professional detailer can really go through a car with a fine-tooth comb, tell you what's good, what's bad, what's kind of in between. So let's continue moving on here. Molding looking good. So front bumper looking good. Hood definitely having some issues, as well as very strange that that part on the other side feels like it literally didn't have a clip. Up here you have these very large A-pillars, of which I can tell you actually owning one of these cars is actually kind of a big distraction sitting in the driver's seat. A lot of the time it doesn't look that big from the outside, but it gives you a really, really large blind spot, which is, yeah, not the greatest. But I do love the design of the EV6. Same mirrors here for 2025. We also have this one with basically full tech pack of, importantly, my car does not have. It's actually pretty nice how this functions. Check out the door gaps here. Pretty flush throughout, looking pretty darn nice there. Let's take a little bit of a measurement there. So that's right at a 5mm gap there. 4.5, and then as you come down here, right about 4. So actually not perfect throughout. To the naked eye, it actually looks pretty good, but definitely a little off kilter, which is pretty interesting. Down here, you can see all sorts of different moldings going on, and you can see those panels are quite literally touching, so that looks a little weird. Okay, I'm really surprised at the lack of precision so far, especially for Kia, because again, I'll say this again and again, EV9s have been very, very nice. EV6s have been very, very nice. But them now being built over here, I was expecting a little bit better. These also have the kind of flip out door handles, of which honestly I kind of prefer mine that don't have this because these are kind of awkward. Let me grab the keys real quick. So I have the key in my hand, which importantly now looks like an EV9 key. I actually like this key design. So what's weird about this is you would think when you're walking up to the car, these would self-open here. What I've actually found though is I either have to physically press this, or when I walk up to unlock it, I have to hit it there, which is actually weird because my car has, it's charging again. I don't know why it does that every time it locks and unlocks. That's another weirdo. But this is actually over here, which seems like a more natural place to actually press it. So you have to press this, and now it unlocks, now you open it. Now the door handles themselves actually feel pretty darn nice, but I also prefer to not have them pop out. The reason being is a lot of the times I leave my dogs in the cars, and it's kind of nice to leave the car unlocked, but not let it be known that, yes, charging started, yeah, again, that the doors are actually unlocked. So that's one thing. I don't know whether I absolutely love it or absolutely hate it. Now looking down here, the fit and finish here is absolutely perfect. This is what I expect from Kia, so this is looking fantastic all the way through. Back here, all this is looking incredibly nice. Always a very challenging area for manufacturers to actually deal with back here. Continuing on. Okay, already seeing some weirdness. Look at this. What the heck is that? Kia. Really weird. Look how nice and tight all this is. This feels like it's just missing another clip like the other front side is. Very strange. Up here looking very nice all the way throughout. Looking pretty good there. I will say it gets a little on the tight side. I could say that's totally passable though. But yeah, it kind of is off, isn't it? Because that's pretty tight. That's a little larger and matches this a little bit. Interesting stuff. I'm really very disappointed in that. Now, this is some good news back here for a lot of folks. We now have NACS on here. Yes, I am using a J1772 with the new NACS adapter that comes with the car. Actually, let me show you the port in here. I think we can just stop it like that. There we go. There's NACS. Pretty cool. It's very interesting how this has kind of a insert here. Pretty interesting stuff. But the important thing for a lot of people is we're going to hear charging started yet again. It is on the correct location to be able to use Tesla superchargers. This is a very big deal because the Ioniq 5, even now in the latest generation, only has it over here, which is where the charge port used to be. This is so much easier to be able to use the superchargers, not block up multiple stalls, not piss off a bunch of people and things like that. So big fan of this. I think it's good. I still, at this time, would kind of prefer to have CCS charging still, because now we're using adapters to go to EA to actually get fast charging speeds, because these only pull 125 kilowatts on a supercharger. I don't know, nerd stuff here, but that's my personal opinion. So looking back here, we also have a newly redesigned rear bumper area, rear diffuser. Very interesting how they actually put the reverse lights down here. Do you love the new rear end? Do you hate it? I really wish they would have gone away from this material here. It literally matches absolutely nothing on the car. There's none of this dark chrome anywhere else. This would look very good in black. Also, we have a new rear light bar, which looks identical, but actually in practice is slightly different. So I don't know if you could actually tell that, but it's more of this kind of uniform bar instead of just all of these jagged little situations here. It's different. Trust me, it's different. Pretty strange. One thing I'm curious here to look at is this spoiler. This whole thing of starting, stopping is annoying the heck out of me, so I will not touch it again. This is looking really good, which is the only complaint I have about my EV6 is in the hatch area. Now, my spoiler actually sits up a little higher here. And as you can see, that spoiler doesn't really fit all that well, but you can definitely start to see the differences in the actual light bar there. Importantly also, we don't have a bunch of that weird stuff. These things feel like they are absolutely adhesive to all heck on the entire vehicle. Fit and finish on this, really nice. Let's head back inside. So as you can see, I am very glad that this is actually lining up quite a bit better. Now let's take some measurements throughout here. I want to check this all the way down. So that's about a 4 millimeter there. That's a little over 5, nearing on 5.5. Yeah, a little all over the place to say the least. This one's hard to do. I'm not going to restart the car again. 5.5 there. And then again, you can see this gap here is really, really tight. So there is some weirdness going on at Kia with their new US-based production plant, which I'm kind of disappointed about. Man, that's one of the things with the EV6 that I was always loving. Same thing going on over here. Are you kidding me? What the heck? That is wild. So it feels like they are literally missing a clip in each of those areas, but the weird thing, the driver's side doesn't have that issue. Very, very strange. Let's continue down the rear bumper here. Honestly, everything else looking very, very nice throughout. Fit and finish looking very good. Let's come back over here to the passenger side. You can see all of this. It's a large gap, but it's actually consistent all the way throughout. This is looking very good here. How about down here? See, this actually fits quite a bit better. It's crazy. I really don't like that. That kind of drives me nuts. This is even a little flimsy there. Kia. I really expected better. Really did. All this looking pretty good. This also has a sunroof option, which I think if you're going to get an EV6 and you're kind of a tall dude like me, don't get the sunroof. We'll talk about that more once we get into the interior. Fit and finish here though, looking very, very good all the way throughout. Liking that. Doors looking great here. I'm curious to see this side. That fits properly there. Now, you can see that bottom piece is a little far over, but it doesn't look like this situation, whatever is going on here. That just looks awkward and weird. Yeah, pretty strange to say the least. So guys, fit and finish on the exterior. Man, honestly, leaving a little bit to be desired in my personal opinion. I'd really like to see that very much tightened up. Now again, this is early production here in the United States, but we've also had new Hyundai Ioniq 5 as well as Ioniq 9 built in the United States, and the fit and finish very, very nice. I don't believe I've actually had an EV9 here, so I'd be curious to check one of those out to see how that's doing. But this is, yeah, a little disappointing, especially when they're asking a big purchase price of $61,000 for this vehicle. This is honestly, unfortunately, some of the stuff I expect to see from Tesla, not necessarily from Kia. So really with Kias, the thing is exterior fit and finish is really nice. Interior is pretty good, but kind of let down by the materials. So let's jump in, talk about all that's new, and see how this thing is feeling. I should also mention as we open up the door here to the EV6 that this also supports the phone as a key 2.0, very similar to how our EV9 is. I will tell you, it's not the most reliable from my experience. So yes, it's a nice update that you can use phone as a key, which I couldn't on my car, but it's a little odd in the actual use. Now I don't have it on this vehicle because this is a press car and had to sign up and all that fun stuff to do that. But yeah, I will say on the EV9 hasn't been the most reliable. I'll be curious to see how this does. So as we jump inside here, you can see we've got the ambient light going, which is actually a really nice addition over my wind trim because I have zero ambient lighting and it plays a huge role into kind of the feeling of driving this car at night. One of that being I literally had terrible headlights and then the interior kind of felt like a dungeon. So everything just felt dark. This has nice bright headlights now, nice ambient lighting with the full color spectrum on it. Really, really nice. So let's start over here on the door panel. So pretty much looks almost identical to my car, plus some additions here. So GT line, all of this used to be piano black. You can see that there in the center console. They actually listened to customer feedback and said, we're gonna put this kind of, it kind of looks like brushed aluminum that's kind of anodized here in a darker gray, but it's of course plastic here. But honestly feels very nice. The thing that I very much like that Kia does is not use all the piano black keys here. They all feel great. The switch gear here, very nice, very clicky, but there's quite a bit of plastic in this car. And that is one thing that's really disappointing, especially when you start to compare it to the newly refreshed Model Y Juniper. There's a lot of areas in the new Model Y that very much feels more premium than this car. Okay, seriously, there's something weird with this whole charging situation here. I haven't touched any, well, I guess I unlocked it again. I don't know. That's probably a setting. We'll talk about software in a minute. So, dark door card over here. We've got this kind of rubberized plasticky stuff up here. Doesn't feel that great. We've got a little bit softer touch vinyl leather material over here. Doesn't feel that great. And that's kind of the whole thing throughout the Kia interiors. The reason I got my car and the reason I like my car so much, it's $187 a month. This to me does not really feel like a $60,000 interior experience. The door handles are nice. You can see we've got all that brushed aluminum material up here. This all feels great. Then you come down here and it is just cheap, terrible plastic. This is all cheap, terrible plastic throughout. I think it looks okay. I much prefer the design of the EV6 over Ioniq 5, but yeah, some of the materials, man, they just feel very, very cheap. Same with EV9, honestly, as well. But again, EV9 is interesting because of what it competes with. You know, Rivian R1S, the top trim kind of starts where the base model does, and the GT lines in EV9 are pretty darn nice. So even down here, like all these carpets, they feel like they spent zero money on it. Now, importantly, this has the Meridian audio system, which I would tell you, last generation was truly terrible, honestly worse than Rivian premium audio, and they have changed something. It is a lot more clear, has a lot more bass, has a lot nicer volume. Anytime in my EV6, when I crank up the volume, it just gets muffled, gets mushy throughout, has no bass, no clarity. They have done some serious improvements here with the Meridian sound. That is a big thumbs up on one of the things that I really appreciate about the newest generation EV6. Moving on here, you can see we've got the GT line seats, which I think look actually pretty darn nice. The material is okay, kind of has this plasticky feel to it, to say the least. No, I shouldn't say all, but a lot of new vehicles are now going to synthetic leathers, which I personally really appreciate. My EV6 is my dog hauler. I've got two very fluffy golden retrievers. with, of course, nails. They're in and out. They use this damn car like a jungle gym, not this car, my car, and the materials hold up very, very well. The only thing that's actually happened is my boy Oliver jumped up here on the dash and left some nail prints up here, but the seats are unbelievable. The armrests, all the center console, like they literally are jumping all over. I know. Pretty crazy to say the least. But the nice thing with these seats, they're actually pretty darn comfortable. They also have great AC, great heated seats. I don't know why that took me so long to say that, but let's jump inside here. So very much like the ambient lighting, you can actually see that the dash is a little different. It looks almost exactly the same, but there's this more waterfall style here. Interestingly enough, on mine, it's kind of tilted this way, which actually really helps when you're using the screen here. You kind of have somewhere to grab. Now this also has a new screen in it. Can I turn it on? Yes. So it's going to load up, do its thing, do its annoying thing with Kias. It's actually pretty awesome. It's more of a rectangular shape here instead of kind of a more angled. And importantly for me, it's actually glossy now. So in my vehicle, they have kind of this matte kind of texture over it. Maybe something like you would do in, you know, a vehicle putting on some sort of screen protectors. I really like a glossy screen. The reason being is it looks a lot more clear, has a lot more contrast to it, makes it look a lot higher end. This is also running the new CCNC software from Hyundai Kia. It's better, it's not amazing. I'm gonna leave the software out of this video. It's definitely better. There's some things that I really appreciate about this, having a button to manually select preconditioning in it. I will say it's actually very responsive here. My only issue with this, anything you want to get to is buried menus and menus and menus deep. It's not very intuitive. The route planning is better now. I just wouldn't say it's actually incredible. I'll quickly show you that here since we do it in all the videos. So I'll tap this open. Let's go to close here. Let's go to search. Let's go to Las Vegas, like we're doing a race to Vegas. It's actually pretty quick. It also uses Google now, which is pretty interesting. Interestingly enough, this is funny when you're trying to search for your location, it'll pull up photos if you're in park. If you're not, none of this info displays here, which is kind of crazy. Like you get in a Tesla and you can look in, hey, this is what's around the parking lot, all the fun stuff there. So if we route it there, let's see what it does. So we have include charging stations on. We may not have the greatest cell signal here, but it isn't the quickest, snappiest, but that was actually pretty darn good. Available charging stations will be updated while driving. So interestingly enough, it looks like we only have 4 charging stations and then after that, nothing. So I would like to see the ability to have the whole thing done, but this is an improvement to say the least. Doing pretty deep charges here. Why are we doing a 26-minute charge? And I'm curious, does this tell us exactly what that is? This is the whole type of situation that just sucks. Like, okay, see how laggy all of this is? So this is a Frisco. I hate the software, I'm sorry. I just want to know a little bit more about this station. So this is a 24 stall. I don't even know what this is. It also doesn't tell me whether this is Tesla Supercharger, Electrify America, EVgo, ChargePoint, anything like that. This is just cumbersome and clunky, and I'm scrolling and I'm scrolling. Oh, okay, now this is 184 miles away. This is also a Tesla Supercharger here. It's just clunky, I'll tell you that. For what I use in the EV6, I actually use a better route planner with the OBD2 dongle in here. It's been phenomenal. I have a video over on the Out of Spec Bits video talking about this. Actually really like it. So that's been a massive upgrade. So down here, center console. I actually love the center console of the EV6. Very utilitarian. What I don't love here, though, having a start-stop button. But importantly, they actually made this matte/satin here, which is gloss in my current vehicle. But what's weird is they skipped this whole thing, and this is always full of smudges, things like that. But I am glad to see the whole center console here. They listened. It's no longer piano black. This actually looks very nice. You've got your wireless phone heater here, as well as some quick buttons if you need to pull up cameras, things like that. Cameras are okay, I would say. I like that it takes up the whole screen. It's a little fisheyed. It's kind of hard to tell where the vehicle is. For example, my car, I can kind of see the license plate, so I know, like pulling into my garage with that particular car, exactly where my rear bumper's at. This, I kind of have no idea. So we also have front camera here, which is cool. We also have 360 cam, which is full potato vision. Maybe it'd help if I close this door here. Yeah, it's fine. It's better for pulling out of parking spaces using this. This whole situation is kind of bad. So I think the cameras are okay. I wouldn't say they're perfect, but they're okay. This down here has always been controversial. As you guys know, Kyle Connor famously absolutely hates this. Honestly, though, living with the EV6, I actually really like this bar. I have never once used a single function down here because I just interact with the touchscreen, or to interact with my volume / music, I'm using the buttons here on the steering wheel. This works actually really great. Climate control in the EV6 has been phenomenal, keeps the dogs nice and cool. Just again, one of the big annoying things that I have as a dog owner and a pet owner, I take them everywhere with me and we have no dog mode here. Now, the only way you can do that is to go into your EV menu here. This is every time you start and stop the vehicle, you got to go to utility mode. You got to go to activate utility mode. And then the only way to actually lock the vehicle, I think this is still the same way on this car. It could be totally wrong, but you have to select this on. You get out of the car, roll down the window, press lock, roll the window up. Now the car is locked, but nobody knows that the car is actually on. I've actually had many times that people come up to me when it's pretty hot out and they're like, I was watching these dogs in here. I was worried because I couldn't hear the car running. And I'm like, well, if we had a screen on here that said the dogs are safe, the climate is set to something, that would be really helpful. Now you could tell in here that the car looks like it's on, but it's just one of those things. I really like how Tesla, Rivian, and Lucid implements that. So moving on here, we have a newly redesigned steering wheel, which is a huge upgrade. Now, I actually posted this over on Twitter saying how much of an upgrade I thought it was. And a lot of people were saying this is a hideous steering wheel. For me, last generation was truly terrible, especially when you had the lighter colored interior like mine, which actually had a similar color scheme to this, but the two-tone situation, the two-spoke wheel, really didn't love it. So this feels a lot nicer in the hands. You can say what you want about kind of the cream here. I think it goes kind of well, especially when you can see the seats, the door card, things like that. Buttons here are actually fantastic. Very much like these. They're all very nicely dampened throughout, feel very nice. Everything feels good in the hand. I am okay with the new steering wheel. So that's about it up front here, except for one main issue I have. Now this has a sunroof, of which, man, it just feels like the most basic sunroof they could have done. The other thing is the sunroof takes a ton of your headroom here. I don't know if you can see where the glass is up here to basically where the headliner. This has to be 4.5 inches, especially over here. Now, the issue that I had when I got into this car, as you can see, I'm sitting here with the seat all the way down. My head is basically touching this over here, especially in the driver's seat. I sit a little bit closer and my head is right into that, which I really don't love. So for me, yeah, it's just not that great of an option. And as you can also see, it looks like an absolute dungeon in the back seat. I am glad they put a black headliner in here, but why not make this thing go all the way to the back? Okay, it's cool that you can open this. That's kind of nice. You can't do that in a Model Y or something like that. But also, it's very small. It doesn't even go behind my head here. It's just such a tiny area. There is also one more thing I want to show you over here on the driver's side. So jumping over here to the driver's seat, I actually really like the display here. Almost exactly the same as the EV9, basically the same software as the EV9 runs. But again, over here in my driving seating position, my head is right here. So going over bumps, I'm hitting my head on that little guy there. Now, there's some other things going on over here that I really don't like. So number one being this area here and this. I don't know if you can hear that, but this crunch. It's not necessarily from me pressing my leg against this. This is actually some noise coming through the cabin over some undulations in the road. So going over kind of cracks and crevices, some crack seal type stuff, you'll hear some creaking, rattling here. You also hear it from here, this kind of all plastic stuff, as well as back here. So really not perfect. Also, I think that's just not put in properly. I don't know if that was from somebody. We'll fix that for Kia in the future. Boom, there we go. Very wonky to say the least. But the car's NVH, I'm a little disappointed with, to say the least, in terms of the creaks and rattles. Now, importantly with this new car, we actually do have quite more isolation. Kia has done a pretty nice job in here actually doing some more sound insulation throughout. I'm not sure exactly if they're doing that from areas like wheel wells or from the interior. Could be a bunch of different things, but it's actually quite a bit more quiet than the outgoing vehicle. I will also say the ride is actually seems to be improved in this car, so I'm glad to see that. So NVH has gotten better, but there's a few creaks and rattles in this particular car that I'm a little disappointed to see, especially being a Kia press car. Coming back here is when you get to all plastic zone. All of this, actually this is soft touch here. This is just all cheap plastic. You do have rear heated seats back here, which is really nice. Impressively though, you would think with this car, it doesn't have a ton of rear seat room. It's actually really impressive the amount of space you have back here, because I can comfortably fit behind myself and have plenty of legroom. Really nice and spacious. This seat is also in entry exit mode. Now I will say headroom back here is not amazing. If I sit all the way back, my head is in the ceiling. If I kind of slouch down like I normally would, still give myself legroom, yeah, totally fine there. It's definitely a little bit cramped. My eye line is kind of here, so it's not the most comfortable back seat, but it's very easy to, you know, take your friends out to dinner. 4 of you in here, putting 5 adults is pretty darn tight. Now back here, a few things that I do really like. Having the USB Type-C ports here actually works amazingly well. I should also mention this does now have wireless CarPlay as well. You might be able to see up there in the center, you've got all of the USB Type-C ports as well. I actually find myself using these all the time. Works very, very well. Anything else back here that I can think of? Yes, a couple of great things. Love having the air vents here, especially for the dogs. If you have people back here, this is much better than just blowing up somebody's crotch here or going right into my knee in this situation. This just looks totally decontented back here. Yeah, kind of a shame, honestly, for 61,000 bucks. All the plastics back here as well, just very hard plastics. But again, I do have to commend Kia in saying that all the materials in here actually wear pretty darn well, except for some of this stuff. Like in my car, all of this is just absolutely hammered from my boy's nails getting in and out of the vehicle. But yeah, man, this car would be a game changer if it had a full sunroof back here. Would just open up the cockpit so much more and yeah, feel a lot better. So let's jump out here. Well, let's look at the rear trunk space. Oh, I forgot about this, to mention this in the exterior fit and finish review. This is like completely loose. You guys can see that, right? Like I can press that and the whole thing moves up. It just feels like something is not clipped in well. Like this kind of stuff, did I just get it? Nope. Yeah, it's still loose. That kind of stuff should never be in the press fleet, let alone, well, it should never go to customers, but really should never be in the press fleet like this. This is pretty crazy. So that's going to close it down now. That is hilarious how much that moves. Pretty wild to say the least. So rear space back here, actually for a hatchback, very, very usable. Now, lots of very, very cheap plastics back here. All of this just super hard. Oh, this is actually different. Because my charge port's over here, I actually have this hole on this side. So, wow, they actually had to switch all of that around. Pretty interesting. Let's look under here. Yeah, really no storage. This is where the Meridian sub sits under here, which is weird that they have these little access ports. This whole thing actually pops out. Pretty interesting to say the least. Carpets feel absolutely horrendous back here. Absolutely horrendous. I'll pick up my dog hair from all of my clothes. So it's a good usable size. Again, it's just, man, the materials for me just really, these cars, especially at 61 grand, if you're asking somebody to pay $61,000 instead of go pick up a Model Y, man, it's a very hard ask. Again, these cars, you can say what you want about the MSRP. These cars are really meant to be leased. Let's be totally honest. You're going to take a huge, huge, huge depreciation hit. For example, my 24 EV6 Wind was a $55,000 sticker car. I recently actually reached out to a dealership, Fort Collins Kia actually, and this is not against them. This is just what the market is. And I was curious about trading in my lease, maybe paying it off early, getting into a new vehicle, and my $55,000 car a year later with 11,700 miles on it is now worth 26,000 bucks. Insane. Absolutely insane. Up here, we've got a same size front trunk. This also has the vehicle to grid adapter, or load adapter, I guess it would be, V2L here. And, whoa, I haven't seen this yet, sorry. Trying to do this one-handed, very, very tricky. I just want to see the NACS port on this. Cool, look at that. Now, a lot of you may think this is not a useful tool. Actually, I had a pretty serious power outage in my house the other day where my main breaker kind of blew up and everything went out in the house, and we actually plugged in my refrigerator to the Kia using that adapter. Of course, it was the J1772 version of that, but this is actually really nice to have. So if you're looking for a front trunk, you should probably look elsewhere. You can fit about almost nothing up here. Completely unusable. Not really that impressed with that. So, closing this down here, final thoughts on the newly refreshed EV6. Well, I got to tell you, from the build quality, yeah, I'm honestly a little disappointed, especially with the exterior and especially with having rattles inside. My opinion, any new car that has rattles, completely unacceptable. I don't care what manufacturer it's from, should never be a thing. But again, just some oddities going on here with how the hood fits here, literally not having clips, and this thing, man, I mean, that is crazy. Something is truly just not right there. That kind of stuff I really don't expect from Kia, because they are very precise in all of the Korean built cars that I've seen. So kind of a shame that the US built cars are not quite as nice. Again, the interior of the EV6, I much prefer over the Ioniq 5. Again, I just think in 2025, a lot of these cheap plastics in here and the large asking price, man, it's kind of hard to ignore that. Now again, you may buy a EV6 or EGMP product because you really like the charging. These cars charge unbelievably well. I think we're going to have some charging tests coming up with this car, hopefully soon, because this has the new 84 kilowatt hour pack, slightly more energy in there, and I think the 10 to 80 actually got slightly worse, but this also has a higher peak. I don't know, lots to dive into here. But yeah, the new EV6, I really like a lot of things about it. I like the new fascia, like the new styling. I appreciate the NVH inside. I just really am not into the rattles. I'm really unimpressed with the exterior fit and finish and some of the small things that we found here, like that camera button being completely gone. That's just kind of weird stuff. So a little bit of a mixed bag here with the newly refreshed EV6. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in another one soon. Bye-bye.